Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the Learning Light on C++ programming. So in this tutorial, you're going to learn about the const keyword in C++. So this const keyword is used to make the program elements such as the variables, the pointers, etc. as constants. So all of you know that a constant is a value which doesn't change. First, we're going to talk about the constant variables in C++. So we will face some situations as a programmer, where we have to keep some variables constant throughout our program. For example, you are writing any program about, finding the area of a circle, etc. At that time, you guys need to use the pi value. So we can say that this pi value is a constant value which doesn't change. It should not change. So here, just for the demonstration purpose, we're gonna create a variable and we're gonna call it as pi, and its value is gonna be 3.142, I guess. And we want this pi value to be constant throughout the program. So once we initialize this pi variable with a value, it should not change. So to make this pi variable constant, we can use the const keyword with it. So when we use it, it's going to be a read-only variable, so we can't change the value. And the next thing is, when you use a const keyword with a variable, you should initialize that variable where you declare it. And if I try to change the value of this pi in my program, let's try to do that. Let's say pi equal to 1.2. And if I build and run this, I'll get some compile error. I'm gonna open up the logs. So assignment of read-only variable pi. So when you declare a variable with a constant keyword, that variable is going to be constant throughout your program. So you can't change the value. And also we guys can use this const keyword with the pointers, function arguments and return values, class data members, class member functions, objects, etc. Which we're gonna learn later. So here, now I'm gonna show you how to protect an array by using this constant keyword. So just for the demonstration purpose, here I'm gonna write a function which is gonna take the array as an argument, and it's gonna display the elements of that array. So as a programmer, in some cases we don't want any other functions to change the values that we pass. So at that time, if we change that unknowingly, then our program will not work properly, and it's very difficult to track that kind of bugs. So here we're gonna write a function. Let's call it as display, and this function is not gonna return any values, so it's gonna be display, and our function is going to take two arguments. So first it's going to take an array. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this array as constant. So I'm going to use the const keyword, const int, and let's call it as num, and then we're going to receive another value. Let's call it as limit, which is also of type int. And in our program, we're going to use a for loop to print out the elements of that array. So I'm going to use the loop counter variable, and I'm going to call it as counter, and let's initialize this one to 0, and counter less than limit counter plus, and we're going to use the cout statement, and it's going to be num counter, and let's add this line using the end line, and also use that stream insertion operator properly. Okay, now we have written a function called display, which is going to display the elements of an array which is received as a argument. So here we have made this array as constant. That's why we can't change the value of the array which we receive. I'm going to demonstrate that later. So here in our main function, we're going to create an array. Let's call it as number, and I'm going to initialize this array to, let's say, 22, 11, 44, 55, 66. So we have 5 elements in this array. And next I'm going to call the display function display, and don't make any spelling mistake, it's going to be display, and we need to pass the array. It's going to be number, and then it's going to be the length of this array, it is 5. So I'm going to save this, I'm going to build and run this program. Okay, we got an error. Okay, let me open up the logs. That's because we haven't done the function prototyping. So I'm going to copy this one and paste it before this main function and add a semicolon. So now I'm going to save this, build and run this. So now you guys can see our display function has successfully printed the values of the array it received. So the important thing to notice in this function is nothing but the const keyword. So we can't change the value of the array which we receive. So if we try to do that, for example, let's say num of counter, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in the next line, and let's say equal to 22. If we try to do that, we'll get the compilation error. So you guys can see, I'm going to open up the logs. So error assignment of a read-only location. So this is it, guys. This is about the const keyword in C++, which is used to make the programming elements as constants, and also how to protect the array elements using the const keyword. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like my Facebook page at facebook.com/learninglad, and if you guys have any suggestion, don't hesitate to tell us, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.